Have you ever looked at your numbers and thought, seriously, why aren't we growing? Because revenue plateaus are a little bit sneaky. They make you question a lot of things in your business, your pricing, your marketing, and even your leadership. But the truth is, a revenue plateau doesn't mean that it's all over. It's not a dead end. It's actually a bit of feedback. It's a message to you. And when we understand what that message actually means, everything shifts. So today's episode is going to pull back the curtain on why your studio hits these very frustrating flat lines and what they're trying to show you about your business. So if you've been in that same revenue for month after month after month, no matter how hard you work, this episode is going to feel like someone finally turned on the lights. Well, hi there, I'm Seran Glanfield. I'm a business and marketing strategist just for boutique fitness studio owners like you. If you're ready to be inspired and make a bigger impact, you're in the right place. All you need are a few key strategies, the right mindset, and some support along the way. Join me as I share the real-life insights that will help you grow a sustainable and profitable studio. This is the Pilates Business Podcast. Well, hey there, and welcome back to the Pilates Business Podcast. I'm Seran Glanfield, and I just wanted to introduce myself because I know we've got a lot of new listeners from all over the world tuning in. So if this is perhaps your first or second, or even your third or fourth or fifth episode that you've listened to, I figured it might be a good time for me to reintroduce myself to many of you who I may not have met in person or face-to-face yet on our journey in business in this world. So I've been coaching and consulting in the boutique fitness industry for over a decade, well over a decade actually. And if you're a boutique fitness studio owner, if you're a Pilates studio owner, or you have a methodology that you have designed or crafted, created, and taken and wanted to make your own in a space that is your own, this podcast was made for you. And I've been in this industry long enough to know that the strategies that work for big box gyms or even sometimes franchises simply don't translate into what you do as the founder, the creator, and the operator of your business. So everything that I share here is built specifically for your world with the kind of business depth that a lot of other programs that are offered in the industry or a lot of other coaches and consultants in the industry just don't bring to the table. And what this all means for you is that honestly, I have pretty much seen it all, the good, the bad, and yes, the ugly too. And today's topic is one that I'm genuinely excited to unpack because I see it often inside of studios of all shapes and all sizes, in across all different modalities, and honestly, at every stage of business. And that is every now and again, we hit that revenue plateau. Right. And what I mean by that is that your revenue stops growing. It might not be dropping, but we're not seeing this sort of growth month after month after month that we've come to perhaps quite enjoy and expect, perhaps in some cases. And let's be honest, when we see that, we often find it can be quite infuriating. We often find it quite frustrating because honestly, I know that there's nothing more frustrating than working harder and pouring your heart into your studio, your clients, showing up each and every day, perhaps trying new ideas, trying new things, and then your numbers just don't move. And you might start questioning things. Is it my marketing? Am I priced too high? And yes, we can all blame the competition. Do clients then not want what I do anymore? Should I change my pricing? And often we go into action mode, posting more, teaching more, offering promos, discounting, rearranging schedules, and hoping that all of these more things, the more, something will magically click. And I'm not against taking action at all. In fact, I think it's a prerequisite for your success is the ability to take action of some sort when you see something happening. But I want you to know that sometimes revenue plateaus are not a sign that something is broken. It is not a sign at all, actually, either, that anything is failing. And it may not be a sign that you just need to do more and more and more and more. A plateau is giving you some feedback. So if you're seeing this in your business, it's a bit of a sign. It's a sign that, that there is something happening that might require your attention. It's the way of that your business is sort of tapping you on the shoulder and saying, "Hey, something needs to shift. Something needs to change." And it doesn't always happen because you're doing something wrong. It often happens because, honestly, you've outgrown the level that you're operating at. And so I want to talk a little bit more about why I see these plateaus happen and what they might actually be signaling for you in your business. Now, let's talk a little bit about how plateaus, revenue plateaus, can reveal capacity limits, right? Every studio has a ceiling, not just in terms of space or equipment. Yes, all of those things, but also in terms of just your operational capacity. Maybe you only have a limited quantity of spots in every class. Maybe you only have a certain number of classes on the schedule, and maybe your schedule is maxed out. Maybe you are maxed out. And I will say this is honestly probably the most common scenario I find. But we'll talk a little bit more about the capacity first. And maybe your systems can't support more clients. Maybe you're at the limit of what you have in terms of capacity. And so what I see is that, we don't hit these limits, or I should say these revenue plateaus, these revenue ceilings, because there is a lack of demand. Often they hit because there is a lack of capacity, like I said, from a schedule perspective, from a space perspective, or perhaps, and most often, it's from where you are at. Your capacity is maxed out. And honestly, this leads to that exhausting cycle of working more or feeling that pressure of needing to do more. But then we don't have the time or the ability to actually reach that, meet that. And you find that you probably feel like you're pushing that boulder up a hill and that boulder might be winning. And, I think that we have to take a step back if this is where you're at and look at your business from a multiple different perspectives and look at exactly where it is that your business needs to expand capacity, right? And when I say expand capacity, I'm absolutely not talking about expanding your workload. Because I think that the first shift that we all have to make is to stop assuming that the answer to this is to just do more, right? And instead, to actually start looking at where the structure in your business needs strengthening or where we might need to be placing more structure and support in the business so that you can actually grow again, right? Now, we often look at plateaus from a different perspective as well. And I think this is the context of, what is happening out there in the market. So if we've already established that it's not to do with the space constraints, that you're not maxed out, that you're operationally, you have the capacity. Then it's about thinking about, okay, well, let's look now at the demand. And this is not usually where I see the problem lying, but I do think it's important to mention because sometimes your core offers may be misaligned. And what I mean by that is that there isn't enough demand for what you are trying to sell in your studio. Perhaps it's the fact that your offer, the demand for that has stalled. Now, in most scenarios, like I've said, that is not truly what I see, but what I do see that is often a huge constraint is the way that you are showcasing your offers. And if we're using the old way of doing things, right, then you might find that you're turning people off. They're not excited by it. There's no energy in that offer. And there is an element in the world that we're in today where we do need to continue to refine and upgrade and update what we're offering, not necessarily in terms of what we're teaching, but the way that we're talking about what we do in our studio, the impact that it makes. So if you're still using marketing tools and terms and language and copy, for example, on your website, in your emails, that you used 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, then that's a sign that perhaps there is a plateau because what you're offering people is not what they're looking for. And that's typically down to a mismatch and a misalignment in terms of communication. And when you have re-energized what you do and your offerings, what we see is that your clients are energized by that too, and they're excited to try something new. There is a constant need to evolve. This is not a set it and forget it environment that we're in at all. And so sometimes plateaus highlight the need to evolve the way that you deliver what you do, your offer ecosystem, as it were, right? Not to overhaul your entire business, but actually to evolve the way that you're delivering or what you're sharing and the way that you're sharing it with your community. So when your offers and the way that you transact with your clients, right? The way that you share what you do with them evolves with your business, then your revenue will as well. And what we see is if you set it and forget it, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and we haven't matched what we're doing to the world that we're living in today with what our clients are looking for today, then you will probably find that others may grow around you and you're hitting that limit. So what else does plateaus reveal? Well, there's a lot. And a plateau often shows up when, and I think this is often typically, often pretty common as well, which is where your revenue stalls when your lead flow has dried up. Okay. And this is not because no one is interested. This is different to what I was just talking about. This is actually because you might have actually hit the natural limit of your current lead generation strategy. So if you haven't evolved and updated and refined the way that you're getting new clients, way that you're getting brand awareness and visibility for your business, then you might find that you hit a bit of a plateau. Okay. And this is not a bad thing. It just means you've got to update your strategies. You've got to refine what you're doing and make sure that what you're doing it meets the sophistication of the clients that we are working with in the world that we're in today. And so if your sort of classes are in a bit of a comfortable range, right, where yes, some of them might be waitlisted, yes, some of them might be less than half full, but on average, you're kind of in the middle, then and you're not seeing the sort of this growth or upward trend that you're looking for, then you might find that hits that revenue. That's just what I would describe as perhaps you're going to hit that revenue plateau that we're trying to avoid, right? And sometimes this happens if your audience has stopped expanding. The people you're reaching with what you're talking about has stopped expanding. Okay. So you've hit that sort of critical mass of people. You're not expanding the visibility. You're not tapping into new markets, new clients, new types of people who would be interested in what you're doing. Okay. Not that people don't want what you do at all. It's often that you need to be a little bit broader and a bit more intentional with your visibility and your marketing efforts. And these plateaus often reveal that there is a gap between what you're talking about and the people you're talking about it with, and the people out there who you could be reaching. And so this often happens if you are just sending your emails out to the same group of people every single week and your audience size for those emails isn't growing. Okay. If you're not putting any energy and effort into reaching new people, they're not going to know you exist and you've tapped out your existing audience. Right. And that again just means, honestly, there's massive opportunity for you. And this is when I get kind of excited, because when we do some digging into your business, when you join Thrive and we see that this is the case, it's an easy, quick, fun fix that has a pretty quick impact on your business, something that re-energizes you very, very, very quickly. And so it's actually what I say, it's a huge opportunity. Now, what else do we see when I see revenue plateaus? I want to go back to something I touched on earlier on when we were talking in the beginning about the various different types of constraints that your business has. And we talked about capacity constraints. We talked about the operational constraints. And we also talked and touched on the constraint that is you in your business. And this is not uncommon. Okay. And I think as you grow, you're going to evolve through this stage at some point. Everybody does. And the problem is that when your business depends on you really heavily to be a part of so many different things in your business, you are a constraint to it. You are the bottleneck. So when you're teaching a lot of the classes, when you're managing everything, when you're making every decision, when you're in charge of all of the things, you will naturally become the bottleneck, right? And, hey, this happens in many, many businesses across many industries. And it's about having awareness for when that is starting to happen and when it's starting to either take a toll on you, right? And this is often the case. We see this happen a lot. This is what we call overwhelm, chaos, burnout, being stuck on that hamster wheel. These are all the things that people tell me they feel when it comes to the way they feel about their business. And this means that this means that there is opportunity. There's opportunity if you're willing to implement some structure and to make some changes, and not bad changes, usually very freeing changes for you. But that does imply that you have become the bottleneck. So when you are teaching all of the things and you're doing all of the things, what we find is a bit of structure and some systems and the ability to, yes, maintain the integrity of your classes and maintain the integrity of your teaching and the quality of the experience that you really want to make sure every single person who comes into your studio has, right? We want to make sure that that is maintained regardless of who is delivering that and how involved you are in every tiny detail, okay? And that structure allows that bottleneck to become a little bit wider, to have more, the ability for you to be able to do more and to grow a little bit more. And what we see without that structure is that you become the limiting factor. Your energy becomes the limiting factor, and your studio can only grow if you have the bandwidth, which frankly often never comes. And so, we all know that, you can only stretch yourself so far before you snap. And so though revenue plateaus often mean that you are too central to the business, that it's time to perhaps step into a leadership role and step into that next level of growth with that. And this is probably just your business tapping you on the shoulder again and saying, hey, it's time for systems. It's time to build and invest in yourself as a leader. It's time for you to invest in some structure in your business, and it's time for you to invest in your team, okay? And it's time to honestly stop carrying all of this alone. So when we see these plateaus, it's not about giving up. It's not about saying, oh my goodness, it's all over, or is this even worth it? It's about saying, okay, this is an invitation into the next level of leadership, and what will that next level require of me and my team and my business, and what is needed for my business to get to that next step? And so I want to leave it there for you. I want to give you a quick recap, because I think this is I've shared a lot with you, and I think it's important to sort of sit in this a little bit. And I would love for you to get in touch if you are in a spot where you're seeing some of these revenue plateaus happening. If what I shared with you today resonates at all, and you really do want to move past that and create some systems and structure in your business that are going to help you to move into that next phase of growth, then please get in touch and schedule a discovery call and learn a bit more about how we can help you to get there, because that's exactly what Thrive is designed to do. So let's recap quickly. If your revenue has leveled, okay, it's not a failure at all. Honestly, we get to these stages because everything you've done so far has worked so well that it's a signal that perhaps your capacity needs expanding, right? Perhaps your offers need evolving. Perhaps you need to refine the way you're communicating with your existing clientele, but also perhaps you need to tap into new ways of reaching new people. But ultimately, what I see with any revenue plateau is that there is a leadership that needs to be stepped into. There's a role there for you that is beyond where you're currently at, that is an invitation for you to step into. And I think that every studio hits plateaus. Every workout hits a plateau. Every CEO hits that moment of, okay, where to next, and how am I going to grow into that next phase? And it's not a failure, like I said, at all, right? But it's an opportunity that has many different ways and paths that you can go. And those that listen to those signals from your business and those little taps on the shoulder saying, oh, hey, have you seen we're kind of hitting our capacity, we're hitting a plateau, we're hitting a bit of a ceiling here when it comes to revenue, right? The people who listen to those signals and then respond to them strategically, investing in their own skill set, investing in their business, they aren't just doing more work, right? They're shifting the way that they think, the way they think about their business. And I will say that happens first. So like I said, if this resonated with you, and if you are in that frustrating place where your revenue just won't budge, no matter how much your effort you're putting into your business, it's time to get a bit more support. It's time to get access to the resources, the strategies the smartest tools out there and help you break through your current ceiling. And Thrive, my business coaching program, is exactly where we dig into those exact challenges. And we uncover exactly what your plateau is signaling. Like I said, there's a few different things it could be signaling. And then we help you build those structures and the systems and get the clarity and the strategies that you need to grow both profitably and sustainably. And what I mean by that is that you'll have a business that will not burn you out. So if you're ready for that next level of growth, you can go to spring3.com/thrive. Because this plateau that you're at right now isn't the end. It's actually perhaps just the beginning of what's next.
Did you love this episode and want more? Head to spring3.com and check out my free resources that will help you run a profitable and fulfilling studio business. And before you go, one last reminder, there is no one way to do what you do, only your way. So whatever it is that you want to do, create, or offer, you've got this. Thanks again for joining me today and have a wonderful rest of your day.